Hello and welcome to. I'm going to call it episode 2 of the podcast because I called the pre-season testing episode 0.
Okay.
This is the Father and Son podcast. I am the father in the title. I'm Graham Miller. And my son Toby is here.
Hello.
And we watch Formula One together and then we get together virtually at the moment because we're not living in the same place. And we talk about what happened in the last race. And I'll call this episode 2 because we've just had the second race, which was the Jeddah Grand Prix in Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
What did you make of the free practice? I think FP1 and 2 were a bit... The trouble for me is you watch free practice and you go, oh wow, Max is complaining about his car. He's like 3rd or 4th and there might be hope for the race, and then it doesn't happen.
Yeah, Alonso looked good. In FP1, he was only a 10th from Verstappen, and then he was first in FP3. But then he sort of just fell away. Like the Aston Martin doesn't seem to have very good race pace, is what people are saying.
Yeah, it kind of qualifies okay, and then it all just evaporates. Obviously, the big news was the fact that Sainz managed 2 free practice sessions.
Yeah.
While suffering from appendicitis.
Yes. So I had appendicitis when I was 6, I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And you'll remember this, Dad, but I couldn't get out of bed. Like, I remember you carrying me downstairs into the car to go to the doctor because I couldn't walk.
Yeah, and
Let alone drive a Formula One car, which I probably couldn't do, anyway.
Well, we've seen from his replacement, Oliver Behrman, who is an F2 driver. He's 18. He's probably in peak fitness. He was absolutely wiped out by doing one race and a free practice session in a Formula One car.
Yeah.
So that just kind of shows you the kind of level. If he was absolutely wiped out by it and Sainz was like, oh, I'll do it, but I've got a bit of a stomachache.
To be fair, Jeddah is an especially physical circuit because it's so fast. It's like...
Yeah.
It's sort of on a level with Singapore for being very, very physical. Not that any of the tracks are, like, easy, but...
It's talked about in the same kind of way as Monza for speed as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they're talking about the average speed of a lap rather than the time, because it's such ridiculous numbers.
And then, free practice 3, Oliver Behrman came along and kept it out of the wall, basically.
Yeah, which is an achievement in and of itself. Because, I mean, Logan Sargent and Zhou Guanyu didn't do that.
Yeah, and I've actually seen, motoring journalists try to drive Formula One cars, and there's a fundamental problem. You need to be utterly committed, because if you go into a lap too slowly, if you approach a corner too slowly, the aero doesn't switch on, the tyres don't heat up, and you have no grip.
Yeah.
And the journalists who've tried it have said there's actually quite a small percentage of the population who can actually drive them, because you have to go super fast to get the aero, to get the load through the tyres, to get the grip, to throw it around the corners. And most people are just like, I'm going to die, and they lift off. And
well, yeah, it's commitment, but it's also reaction time to actually spot the brake properly. Well, there's no ABS. Turn it, get on the power. There's no traction control. So you need to be delicate, but also extremely quick, which is, I mean, kind of impossible.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, all credit to Ollie Behrman in that he did all of that and actually managed to be fairly competitive across, I would say the weekend, but the day and a half that he actually had to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I was sort of looking at was in the race, there's basically a top 8 now, because broadly speaking, Red Bull are winning. Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, Aston Martin, they're all sort of floating around the same area.
I would disagree with that. I'd say Red Bull are winning. I'd say Ferrari are chasing Red Bull.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I'd say the others, McLaren, Mercedes.
It's McLaren, Mercedes, and Aston Martin, Mercedes, weirdly.
Yeah. And they're all, I think, having a kind of a scrap just ahead of the main midfield.
Yeah. So, but the thing is that Oliver Behrman he was at the tail end of that splodge, but he was still in that sort of secondary fight between Aston and McLaren and Mercedes, as opposed to being like 15th, which, was kind of, would have been expected almost. People would have gone, well,
Yeah, He was ahead of one McLaren and one Mercedes. He was behind the Mercedes, obviously. Alonso got his Aston Martin ahead of him.
That's
and
Alonso,
the other McLaren. Yeah, I mean, it is Alonso. I think Alonso won the Spanish Grand Prix on not Oliver Behrman's birthday, but on the day of his birth.
Yeah, he won a race. I mean, Oliver Behrman is currently 18, which means he was born in 2006.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, forget races. Alonso was a champion.
Yeah.
Which is, like, ridiculous. That makes me feel old, and I'm not old.
Well, he's younger than your younger brother, as it were, if that makes sense.
Yeah. He would be the second youngest in the family.
Yeah. 8th of May, 2005.
And he was the third youngest F1 driver ever.
Yeah.
Because it's Verstappen as the youngest, because they changed the rules and nobody will ever be that young again. He was a freak, basically.
Yeah, because he was just under 18, wasn't he?
I don't remember who was second, actually. It could be Jaime Alguersuari, who was a Toro Rosso driver in the 2010s-ish. I can look it up.
I'm just trying to see when the Spanish Grand Prix was in 2005, because I think that is actually a valid stat.
I know, it's Lance Stroll was second.
Oh, okay.
Lance Stroll was 18 years, 4 months. I think Ollie Behrman's like 18 years and 5 months or something.
Yeah, it is all.
But,
really
I mean, it's very tight between those lot, and then it's Verstappen, who's just ridiculously young.
Yeah.
But anyway.
In lots of ways. And again, qualifying.
Yeah. The focus was on how well will Oliver Behrman do, because Verstappen's pole was basically a given. I think this whole Verstappen, Leclerc, Perez trio is now starting to become pretty standard. Definitely, It was Verstappen, then Leclerc last time in the qualifying. It will be this time. It could just be that it will be those two on the front row every single race.
Yeah, I mean, Perez has definitely improved his qualifying. He's up from like 5th in Bahrain up to 3rd this time, and he pretty quickly got rid of Leclerc and just
he's doing exactly what he needs to do now, which is try and enable like a perfect season for Red Bull, which is to say 1-2s in every single race, which is not impossible.
Right, I've broken out my calculator. In this season, because it's the longest season we've ever had, and because we've got sprints, and because we've got fastest laps,
yes,
it is possible for Max Verstappen to score 672 points.
That's the theoretical maximum.
Okay, he's missed one fastest lap last time out.
So actually it's 671, which honestly is just a terrible slump in form from Verstappen at this point.
Yeah, but I mean, that's ridiculous. Also, it might be the first time we see a constructor break the 1,000-point barrier.
That's what I was going to ask about next, was could Red Bull hit 1k points?
Yes, the total available for a constructor is 1,100 and something, which I can't remember.
Which, given that we used to have like 8 races a season and like 9 points for a victory, it's,
Yeah.
Oh, they didn't even have Constructors' Championships until the 60s, so...
Yeah.
The winning constructor in 1960 was Cooper, who won 48 points.
After 2 races, I believe that...
Verstappen's on 51 at the moment. And Red Bull's on 87.
Yeah.
Although
actually,
I think it was one race.
Ferrari's on 49 after 2 races, and they're coming second.
In one race, is it 44 points you can score?
44.
Yeah, 44. So after one race, Red Bull were already closing in on an entire 60s season.
Yeah, it's...
But to be fair, a lot of that is the points change, because now you get 25 for a victory.
Yeah. I mean, that means that 2 victories puts you over the 1960s.
That's why
number.
That's why, like, percentage wins, percentage podiums, percentage points scored, that's what really sort of matters. Because in that context, there's a lot of seasons from the 60s and 70s that are actually still up there. Like, I think it was Alberto Ascari in one of the 50s. He won 75% of the races, and that was
6 out of 8.
That was a top result for a long time.
Yeah.
Until
and even now, it's probably top 10.
Yeah, oh yeah, easily. I think it's like top 5. But
yeah. So in the race, again, you just watch the Red Bulls go off into the distance.
Yeah,
I think the big excitement came at the end because they had that very early safety car.
Mm.
And because Mercedes and McLaren had their cars too close together on track. And if they had double stacked, I worked it out, they would have got caught where everybody else was going down the pit lane.
Yeah.
So they would have actually all come out, all 4 cars would have come out at the back. And I actually totally agree with, I think it was Perez got done for unsafe release.
Yeah,
but
he did.
I totally would have done that if I was in his place, because it was do that or sit there and watch 6 cars go by. It's like, nope, I'll go for it.
And then that 6 cars he has to overtake across the race, that could have cost him more than whatever he got, 5 seconds.
5-second penalty is totally worth it.
For a Red Bull, easily. Because in clean air, you can make 5 seconds in a couple laps, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. What else? Fun.
So who calls the
What's
safety
that?
car? Was it Stroll bashing into the wall that was the safety car?
Somebody went straight ahead into a wall.
Yeah, I think it was because Gasly, his car broke down after 1 lap.
Yeah,
which is impressive.
First retirement of 2024.
Yeah, doesn't bode super well for Alpine.
Yeah, Stroll DNF'd after 5 laps.
Yeah,
which is really too soon for a pit stop.
Yeah, so I think also Behrman came in off the softs and put the hards on at that point and went to the end. So it kind of worked for him because they put him on the softs. So that kind of worked for him, but he said afterwards he wanted more time on the softs because he felt they were quite good. And he was, every lap he was getting more confident and getting more sort of with it. Yeah.
But what that then left was at the final few laps, Norris and Hamilton, who hadn't stopped, went over onto the softs.
Mm.
And they then attacked basically Oliver Behrman, and he held them off. I mean, they didn't even get within DRS.
Yeah, I mean...
He totally did what he had to do.
Yeah. And I mean, Leclerc also came in for softs because he had a big gap to Piastri. So he got the fastest lap then.
Yeah, which took points away from the Red Bull machine. Which means I think Red Bull are 1 point off the maximum they could have got out of 2 races.
Yeah, they really...
kind of depressing in a way.
Yeah, I mean...
Anyway, shall we talk about all the politics that goes on?
Yeah, let's talk about the real drama of Formula 1, not this boring car racing nonsense.
I keep saying every time we talk about the whole Red Bull thing, why would anybody want to ditch Christian Horner? It's like the golden goose that's winning everything.
Yes.
There was an Italian F1 site that got translated into English that actually laid it bare.
Mm-hmm.
Toto Wolff is a third shareholder in the Mercedes F1 team.
Yes.
He gets to make decisions. He sits at the table, basically. He can choose the overall direction.
Yeah, the actual business side of things.
Yeah. Christian Horner is on a fantastic salary. I can't remember if it's dollars or pounds, but it's $8 million a year, which at that point it doesn't really matter. It's a lot of money.
I mean,
but
the drivers get like tens, but...
Yeah, but he is an employee.
Hmm.
And I think at some point in the last few years, they started talking about Ford and whether Ford would want to be... I think the idea was that Ford would supply battery tech and become a named sponsor, like title sponsor.
Yeah.
And he wasn't happy with this. So when Dieter died, apparently Christian Horner rounded up, and this has been confirmed, a bunch of British financiers like hedge funds and venture capitalists.
Mm-hmm.
And he went to the Thai side of the business, the 51%, with a plan to buy Red Bull Racing from Red Bull.
So to buy the entire company?
To buy the team from the company.
Right, because they're still like closely connected.
Yeah, and he failed.
Mm.
But that's a case of if you take a shot at the king, you better not miss.
Because now the shareholders, the 49%, see Horner as a threat because he might try again.
And the other thing is that going way back to, I think, 2016, Max wanted into the top tier Formula One team out of Toro Rosso, I think it was then. And Christian Horner said, no, you're too young. We're not going to put a 17-year-old in a top or 18-year-old in a top flight car. And Helmut Marko intervened and basically either twisted Christian's arm or probably applied. Again, this is that kind of leverage I'm saying where he's an employee. He doesn't really have power.
Yeah.
And as we know, Max got in. Therefore, Max likes Helmut Marko.
Yeah.
I don't think Christian Horner does. And it's a bit hard to track down who owns what. But I get the impression that Helmut Marko is employed by Red Bull overall motorsport division and not by Red Bull Racing the team.
I think that's right, actually. I think that sounds...
And therefore, if Christian managed to buy the team and become, let's call it Christian Horner Racing for want of a better name, he would never have to deal with Helmut again.
Yeah, because he could just fire
Which,
him.
of course, he'd just ban him from the pits or just not listen to him. He wouldn't have any influence. Which, again, of course, is going to really upset Max because Helmut's always been in Max's corner. And he's been the kind of older, wiser voice that can talk to, the people like Christian Horner and get Max's point of view put across.
Yeah, so it says on Wikipedia, although this is citation needed, that Marko since 2005 has been an advisor to the Formula One teams owned by Red Bull GmbH, which is the global energy drink company. Yeah, the actual top level. So he's advising not just Red Bull, but Toro Rosso and AlphaTauri.
And probably the rally teams and the Formula 2 teams. And
yeah, I think it just says that he does the Red Bull Junior program, which is not obviously a subsidiary of the actual RBF1 team. RBR, that is, Red Bull Racing.
Yeah.
It's a step higher, so I think you're right.
So that's what actually kicked it all off. And then, I can really imagine they were looking around for something like these mysterious text messages or this controlling behaviour as ammunition, if you want, to kind of further their cause.
Yeah.
But now it actually starts to make sense of what the heck is going on.
Yeah.
Because, if you're winning as ridiculously well as Red Bull have been since 2022, you don't upset the apple cart. You don't kind of try and change things. You just try and keep going.
Yeah, so I did find a Dutch website. I don't know how legit they are, but they made a graphic of the power struggle, and it's got the Austrian owner, the Thai owner, the CEO, Helmut Marko, Christian Horner, and the Verstappens. Basically, Horner's got a positive relationship to the Thai owner, the 51%, which corroborates what you said. And he's in power struggle with Marko and has strained relationships with the 49% Austrian owner, the CEO, and Jos Verstappen. Yeah. It's basically just a web of red coming away from Christian Horner, which sort of makes sense to everything that you said.
Yeah. And I can kind of see if he's looking at what's been going on in Mercedes, in his own situation, he would be a bit... I know it sounds petty to say, I'm only an employee. I mean, you or I would be over the moon to get £8 million or dollars a year.
Hell yeah.
But compared to some of his peers who actually own percentages and...
Yeah, I mean, Wolf is a proper businessman. He's involved.
Apparently, the people who keep track of these things have updated his estimated net worth to $1.6 billion.
Who, Toto Wolff?
Yeah.
Let me see. Yeah, he says... His Wikipedia page says that he's an Austrian billionaire motorsport executive and investor.
Yeah.
Not team principal. Although that is what he is, but he's more than that.
But you can see how Christian would kind of have his nose out of joint where... Oh, actually, you can do the maths really easily. If it's $8 million a year, let's say, 2 years he'd get 16. So 200 years he would get... Yeah, he'd need 200 years to become that wealthy.
Yeah, although he is married to a Spice Girl, so...
Well, that is an advantage.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that
Although,
is
again,
as close as we're...
just thinking about it, Toto Wolff is married to Susie Wolff, who is in charge of F1 Academy. And there was, I don't know if you remember, there were like accusations that there was a conflict of interest because she works for the FIA.
They might have talked stuff over the like breakfast table or whatever.
So maybe that was Horner again looking over jealously and seeing, I'm just employed by Red Bull, but those two are deep in the F1 system in a way.
Yeah, and they're much more
thing.
Influential.
Yeah, so maybe he was... I mean, also it's an opportunity to try and weaken Mercedes, which they'll always take.
Oh, yeah. Also, have you heard the news about Ben Sulayem? I can never say that.
Ben Sulayem.
Sulayem. That he's being investigated for the 2023 Saudi GP. He actually got involved in changing the outcome of the race by changing a penalty for Alonso.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like... That's actually really... I mean, okay, Alonso wasn't world champion, but, you know, that's a kind of sacred thing within Formula One, is the actual outcome of the race.
Yeah. I mean, I did see a tweet that said, hang on a second, alleged race fixing at a night race on a street circuit involving Fernando Alonso. Wow, that's never happened before.
Yeah, deja vu.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I'm surprised he's still in power at the moment, actually, because he's kind of not really done anything good. It's just always been... He's
kind of embattled, I think is the word.
Embattled.
Yeah, just kind of, you know, there's like grief all around him, isn't there?
Yeah. I still think the entire sport started careening downhill pretty quickly as soon as Charlie Whiting died.
Yeah, I think the sporting side of it definitely did.
Because, I mean, he was like integral to the entire operation of the sport. I mean,
you can't imagine the last race of 2021 happening under Whiting's
No, he would have kept the safety car out and gone, congratulations, Lewis, and that would have been that.
Yeah.
But...
the other thing I've been thinking about, and actually I was thinking this before the Saturday race happened in Saudi, what is Ferrari's long-term plan?
Yes.
Because hiring Lewis is a weird... I'm going to call it a double halo, because for Ferrari it has a halo effect in that it's Lewis Hamilton. He's a global brand. He's everything you could possibly want, to be honest. You know, he's broken loads of records. He's popular. He has massive social media. And likewise for Lewis, driving for Ferrari, it's what pretty much every driver wants to do.
Yeah.
At least once in their career.
I mean, Ferrari's stock price, their actual value, shot up as soon as they signed Lewis. They made them billions of dollars easily.
Wow.
So,
but the thing is, Ferrari have built this kind of Charles Leclerc team. You know, they've got his favourite team boss in Frederic Vasseur. They've got the people around him. It's been made really obvious to Carlos Sainz this is the Charles Leclerc team that's going to make him into the world champion he deserves to be.
Yeah.
But then, where does Lewis Hamilton fit into that?
Yeah.
You can't win 2 drivers' championships in 1 year.
Yeah.
And I can't see Lewis being, I'll be Charles' tail gunner and keep people off his back and make sure he wins a title.
Well, no, because Lewis has gone to Ferrari to win, basically.
He wants his 8th title.
Yeah.
But we've seen in the past, the really successful partnerships are when you put like Vettel or Schumacher in a team and the whole team is focused on getting them over the line.
Yeah, you need a Schumacher and a Barrichello, basically.
Yeah, or Vettel and a Webber.
Or a Hamilton and a Bottas. Because look what happens when you have Hamilton and Rosberg. There's
or when you have Hamilton and Alonso.
Oh yeah, that lasted 1 year and it was like an absolute
carnage.
Car crash.
Yeah. But then Friday and Saturday happened. Mm-hmm. So now Ferrari have got that problem.
Yeah.
Plus Oliver Behrman, who, if Ferrari don't put him in F1 next year, somebody else will.
Yes.
To be blunt. And he's not looking like the kind of driver who's going to go, oh, you know what, I'll do 3 or 4 years at Haas, I'll find my feet, and then I'll look at a big name drive.
I mean, but that might be all he gets, though. I mean, to be fair, 3 or 4 years, Russell was getting a bit angsty at Williams. He was, like, getting quite impatient. So, yeah, I think...
It's a very similar situation, isn't it?
If because at the moment, Ferrari are supplying engines to, I can't even remember what they're called anymore, Sauber, Alpha, Sauber, Kick, whatever,
Yeah.
and Haas. So if any of those four drivers get noticeably worse than their teammate, I think they could be out for Behrman next year.
Yeah. But then there's going to come a point where Behrman's going to want to go up to a big name team.
Yeah, it is a bit. But it's also a kind of... Red Bull have got the opposite problem now, because if Perez has a mid-season crash, at this point they don't have that many great options, because Ricciardo's pace is quite far off for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Tsunoda is faster, but he's much less kind of... I'm trying to think of the word, like conformable. Like he's not going to do what they tell him to, basically. Because again, what Verstappen needs is a solid, dependable rear gunner who won't get too upset. But
and also, I kind of look at Tsunoda, and I think psychologically he'll get dominated in the kind of look what happens to every single Max Verstappen teammate. They kind of crumble beneath whatever he does.
And I don't think Tsunoda quite has the temperament to cope with that.
I really don't know.
So, although actually the big move that I have heard rumoured is Sainz to Red Bull.
Oh,
because Sainz gave Leclerc a headache, basically. Like he matched Leclerc. He's really, really fast.
But if I was in Sainz's shoes, yes, you're going to the fastest car on the grid, but it'd be yet more seasons of being the B driver when you know you're faster.
Yeah, because Sainz was at Toro Rosso with Verstappen and got passed up for that Red Bull seat for Verstappen quite sort of conspicuously. He went to Renault as a lone driver for a bit. Then he went to McLaren, and he must have seen the team being sort of built around Lando.
Yeah.
Because then he went to Ferrari, to a team that's being built around Leclerc. And I mean, with this generation, you've got these young drivers having teams built around them, basically. Like, you've got Verstappen is at Red Bull.
Yeah.
Leclerc is at Ferrari. You've got, I think Russell's going to start to be the sort of centre point of Mercedes now that Hamilton's gone.
Well, yeah, and I mean, Hamilton's been, frankly, quite disappointing in the last couple of races for Mercedes.
Yeah.
I think it's already changing over.
Well, they weren't really listening to him about the car. Maybe they were, listening to Russell more than him and saying, well,
Maybe
although
it's more of a Russell.
He did beat Russell in the championship quite considerably last year.
Yeah, it's just these first two races have been really meh.
But then you've got, I don't know what the hell Aston Martin are going to do, because Alonso's not going to stay forever and Stroll's a bit rubbish.
Yeah, but Stroll's like father owns the team, so.
Well, yeah. The only other one that stands out to me is, I think, Albon at Williams. He's sort of become the number one driver there as well.
Yeah, it's really nice to see how he's kind of blossomed away from the kind of toxic Red Bull Verstappen environment.
Yeah, and I think he really wants to get Williams back up to a point where they can fight properly. Because actually, Williams, what they're called? Red Bull offered Albon a drive, apparently. And he said no.
Yeah, I really don't blame him.
He actually chose to stay in Williams.
Yeah, I absolutely don't blame him, because he got really chewed up and spat out last time.
But getting back to what you were saying, all these young, all these drivers being built around these young teams, there isn't much space for the old hats anymore. Like, really, it's just Hamilton, Alonso and Perez. And I'm looking at the list now. Maybe Magnussen, Ricciardo and Hülkenberg have been around for a while as well, but they're not really kind of hot property anymore.
I think they really, like the guys in their 30s, no, Alonso's in his 40s, but like Alonso and Hamilton and people like that are going to find it a very odd place to be.
I mean,
as it goes.
It's helpful that those two are basically the best drivers of their generation.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you think about the other drivers who were young in, say, 2012, they're all gone now.
Yeah.
I mean, Grosjean's been kicked out. I'm trying to think who else. Raikkonen's given up.
Yeah.
So there isn't kind of a space for them anymore.
No, and it seems if you like you say, if you want a world title now, the way the sport is, probably since Schumacher did it, you want to get your favourite team boss in, you want to get your favourite mechanic, you want to get your favourite designer, you want to give it 3 or 4 years to mould the team around you with your favourite teammate, and that's the way world titles are going. So yeah, I mean, something like Sainz, I feel like he deserves a world title or two. He's a really good driver.
Well, yeah,
got a really good kind of tactical brain. He's just never in the right place.
2006 to 2010, there were 5 years and 5 different world champions, because it went Alonso, Raikkonen, Hamilton, Button, Vettel.
Yeah.
Each year, if the current grid was in that sort of very tumultuous, up and down, all over the place time, I think Sainz would have snuck one in at this point. Kind of like Raikkonen did in 2007, where just infighting at other teams let him slide on through.
Yeah.
Same probably goes for Russell and Leclerc as well, but they just don't get a chance because of Verstappen.
No, we've kind of gone from Red Bull dominance to Mercedes dominance back to Red Bull dominance. There hasn't been much kind of gaps.
No, and even the 2021, which was actually an exciting season, across the whole year, it was Red Bull versus Mercedes.
Yeah, which again means it's at most 4 seats that have got any chance of winning stuff.
Yeah, so really for the last 13 years.
Yeah, anyway, before we wrap it up, I have an amazing piece of trivia. Yes. I keep this spreadsheet that lists all the teams and what they were before, so you can kind of see the evolution of team names.
Oh, yeah, I remember that spreadsheet.
Guess what Alfa Romeo was called in 2023?
2023? Last year? They were Alfa Romeo. Sauber?
They were Alfa Romeo F1 Team Stake. They had the word stake in their title in 2023.
Did they? I'm looking at the F1 site.
Don't doubt the spreadsheet.
It says Alfa Romeo Ferrari for 2023. I'm going to look them up because the thing is, the actual names are...
Oh, this is all properly researched.
They're very sort of all over the place, really.
Yeah,
I mean,
but yeah, they had the word stake in their team name in 2023.
Oh yeah, 2023. Because 2019, they were Alfa Romeo Racing. Then for 3 years they were Alfa Romeo Racing Orlen. Actually, no, 2 years they were Alfa Romeo Racing Orlen. Then 1 year they were Alfa Romeo F1 Team Orlen, and now they're Alfa Romeo F1 Team Stake. So that space at the end was clearly, your name here type thing.
Yeah. Pay us X amount of millions of pounds and we can put your name in. And then Stake obviously increased their stake. That sounds weird.
Yeah.
And got their name at the beginning.
Also, they always had a Finnish driver.
Oh, weird.
Because they had Raikkonen, and then he got replaced immediately by Bottas.
Gotta have a Finnish driver. It's good.
There must always be one on the grid. It's a shame we haven't got any Brazilians on the grid, actually, which... I think after Massa retired, unless there was another one that I've forgotten about, it was the first time since Senna had made his debut that there wasn't one.
Yeah, have you heard that Massa's suing to try and get a world title in 2008?
Yeah. That's a bit interesting. I don't know if he's suing to get the title itself.
Well, he's suing for damages because he said he would have won the title without the Singapore race or something.
Yeah, but that does open a pretty significant precedent.
Well, yeah, because, again, that last race of 2021, the
it's
FIA
exactly the same.
They've admitted the rules weren't followed.
It's the same. It's basically exactly the same principle. Hamilton could say, if you hadn't done this, I would have won this race and thus the championship.
But you see, the problem is with 2021, their form of restitution might be to say, well, that race never happened, which would then leave Max as the world title anyway.
Well, that also affects all the other teams who had legitimate results in that race.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, but also, in that race, Sainz was third. But because of what Michael Massey did, only the drivers that were lapped in between Hamilton and Verstappen were allowed to go through, not the ones between Sainz and Verstappen. Because Verstappen was in second. So he had to then battle through a load of traffic just to even get back to the front. So he hadn't, if they had done all of them, then he could have done a dive bomb on Verstappen and got second or whatever, boosted himself up in the championship.
Yeah.
So
that was a mess.
It was a complete, shambles, basically.
Yeah.
But if they say, yes, Massa, have a couple million euros for that, Hamilton's going to knock on their door and say, excuse me, can I have a couple million euros as well?
Or another world title.
Well, I said before, if I was Lewis and they came to me about 2008, I would say, I am a 7-time world champion. It's 2008 or it's 2021. Take your pick.
Well, yeah, there is that, isn't there?
Like, if you take 2008 from me, you have to give me back 2021 because it's the same thing. But if you don't, then I'll accept not having 2021.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think they will, because as soon as they did, everybody with a disgruntled what-if racing driver would look back over the stats and go, oh yeah, but if that hadn't... You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, he pushed me wide here and he should have got... Like, Sebastian Vettel in 2019 in Canada got a 5-second penalty for pushing Lewis off the grass and ended up second. He could go to them and say, you shouldn't have done that, I want my win back. I want to have one more win on my statistics.
Yeah.
So I really don't think they'll change the result afterwards, just because it's such a dangerous precedent to set for them.
Although, I mean, 2008 Singapore was a unique race in that somebody deliberately cheated. And they've got proof that they deliberately cheated. And what they're arguing about is when the authorities knew that somebody had deliberately cheated. It wasn't like a judgment call by the stewards as to whether, that was a 5-second penalty. That was 100% against the rules, black and white.
Yeah.
We all know he cheated. So I can kind of see...
But even in even in that context, the exact same thing is true of Abu Dhabi 2021, though.
Well, yeah, it is. I think they're probably the only two
that we know of.
Yeah.
But again, it is still the fact that a championship could be decided, what even is it now, 16 years after it happened?
Yeah, and I mean, I remember in early 2022 when they were interviewing Toto and when Lewis finally reappeared, they said, we dropped all legal charges because we want to win championships on the track, not in the courtroom.
Yeah, because then if Lewis had got the championship back, the number of people would have said, oh, he's just a fake champion, he can't win it on the track, he's got to go to the courtroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't actually think that was a right decision of them. I think they would have won, and I think they should have done. But there we go.
Yeah, but I mean, how much effort do they want to spend on that?
Yeah. Anyway, we kind of got massively off topic there.
Well, I mean, the topic is Formula One.
Yeah, and it is something that happened in Formula One. This court case has been in the papers.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was our summary of the Jeddah Grand Prix weekend. The second ever race on a Saturday because of Ramadan.
I don't know if that's the only ever race to have happened on a Saturday.
I thought, well, after Australia, Toby will have had enough time to go and look back through the stats and see if I was right or if I was wrong. I've been Graham, and he's been Toby.
Yep.
And, we've got really early morning starts for Australia, haven't we?
Proper like 5 a.m. type thing. I can have a look, actually.
Coffee and bacon sandwiches, here we come.
Oh, it's 5 until 6 for qualifying on the Saturday, the 23rd of March.
Oh, wow.
And then it's a 4 a.m. race start.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Is that even worth going to bed for? I might just stay up all night.
Yeah, it's kind of in between. I might go to bed at like 9 and...
Actually, that's probably the better
segmented
idea.
Sleeping thing. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm going to say goodbye now.
Yep.
And we will talk to you after the Australian race when we've got our sleep patterns back and woken up.
Yeah. And I've got a lot of work to do after that, because that's when all my deadlines are, the week immediately after the Australian Grand Prix. So it might be a bit of a late one again.
Oh, okay. Okay, then. Well, thank you for listening. Like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.